from the bottomless pit, but my hands remain strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation.
Throughout most of the 20th century, from the 1930s onward, most American workers had the right to collective bargaining, and what it means to have the right to collective bargaining is that they had the government to protect the right of collective bargaining. The only way you really have collective bargaining in the United States is if the government, the federal government, the state, the local governments protect that right. And so from 1935 on, when the major federal law was passed, most working people had the right to join a union, and their employers had the obligation to bargain with them. It's not making them rich. That's one of the great myths of unionization, that union workers are rich. They're not rich people. What they have, which they didn't have before, is security. They have a chance to have stable lives for themselves and their families. Ohio was a really strong union state, and there were a lot of ordinary people who could then say, maybe my kids can go to college. I didn't, but I can send my kids to college. And it put them on a path to greater prosperity. And that was really the story of the American economy for about 40 years. Now all of that, in the last 20 years, has been dismantled.
Well, I voted for Senate Bill 5 because what this bill will do, it's one piece of a much larger puzzle in restoring fiscal accountability in Ohio. You know, we're facing a time where local government and state government is on the verge of fiscal crisis. Budgets are out of control, spending's out of control, but we have to be able to adjust our expenditures based on the revenue that we have. So we have many things that we can do to get our economy back on track, but the public sector is part of it. We can't have situations where payroll and benefits continue to expand at a rate that's greater than the money we're receiving, or we'll go bankrupt. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
Dear Senator Bacon, I don't know what else to say to your response to my inquiry to Senate Bill 5, except shame on you in the Senate. I am so disappointed to be a citizen of Ohio right now. Perhaps my husband and I can take our ethic of hard work, honesty, and belief in doing the right thing to a state that appreciates the contributions of its citizens. I sincerely hope that you do not have children. I can't imagine what public education will look like in a few years if Senate Bill 5 goes through. But then again, I am guessing on your public servant salary, you can afford private schooling for your offspring. That's all I wrote to him. I mean, Ohio's leading the nation, or one of the leaders in foreclosures, but how do they think this is going to fix it? I mean, if teachers take a hit as much as they're saying, if firefighters take a hit, if policemen take a hit, everybody's built a lifestyle based on what they're making now. So if they're going to pull 20% of that away, as this is saying it will, then how will anybody be able to afford the lifestyle they have? You're talking about social services and aid will increase. I mean, you'll have people who previously were able to go to businesses and patronize restaurants, and we won't have any discretionary income to inject back into the economy. So, but I'm just most scared about my kids. I mean, where did this anti-teacher sentiment come from? I mean, it's been one of these careers that people have really respected for so long, and now it's we're overpaid and we're overprivileged.
Yeah, there's been a lot of fear mongering. A lot of the unions have distributed information to their members that is either inaccurate or just completely false. So, you know, I feel bad for the teachers and firefighters and police officers that are getting this information because they believe it. The notion that salary because of this bill is going to be cut is false. The notion that people will lose benefits because of this bill is false. You know, the idea that this bill somehow adversely impacts them is false.
That employers are going to reduce the amount that they pay for a pension plan, and that means that the employee has to pay more, or reduce how much they put into a pension plan so the employee has to pay more. That's a pay cut. I mean, when you get your pay once a month, it's smaller than it was the month before. And that's going to then pull away that great promise of prosperity for ordinary people. It's going to make it harder for them to pay their bills, to send their kids to college, to buy that new car, to make sure they're making their mortgage payment. So it just makes life harder and more unstable and more insecure for literally hundreds of thousands of people.
Stop for the time. Shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Oh, some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book.